Monastery Courtyard. Teth. Ahsoka adjusted her grip on the troopers. Was it Korik? Backpack. She really was doing her best. Killing droids, protecting her master and the men. No, her men. Now it seemed her job entailed hauling around a Huttlet and getting used to the awful smell he emitted. It was hard, even if little Rotto was kind of cute. She and Master Skywalker stood in front of his yellow Delta starfighter while R2-D2 projected the holographic image of Master Kenobi in front of them. Captain Rex and his men had taken up position around them, and the ATTE had settled somewhere in the courtyard.
"Have you found Jabba's son?"
Kenobi asked.
"If holomessaging transmitted smell, you'd know already,"
Master Skywalker said. Ahsoka couldn't help but roll her eyes a bit. He really had a problem with Hutts for some reason. She just didn't get it.
"Yes, we have him, but
But what?
he's really ill. We need to get him to a specialist medic soon. Hutts just don't get sick, so this is serious."
Ahsoka didn't know much about Hutts, but was glad her master could fill in the gaps in her knowledge. Master Kenobi ran a hand over his beard, something he seemed to have a habit of doing.
That's the last thing we need right now, Anakin.
"I think I worked that out, Master. And I'm pretty sure this is a sting by Dooku. The whole situation stinks worse than the Huttlet."
That would be bad. Very bad. They needed to get out of here, save little Stinky, and get him back to Jabba before the end of the day. Dooku coming along with some kind of trap would definitely make things harder than they already were.
He's set us up to alienate Jabba then, to stop us from getting access to Hutt routes.
I realized something was wrong after I lost half my men in breaching the monastery, and then we were allowed to just stroll in, unopposed, and get the kid.
Ahsoka wondered if she should interject about the battle droids she destroyed in the catacombs, but figured it wouldn't exactly add to their conversation.
I was waiting for the ambush, but maybe this is it. He's literally left us holding the baby, and it might end up being a dead baby.
Ahsoka shivered at that and absentmindedly patted Rada's head. He wasn't very slick with slime of any sort. She didn't think that was normal.
You think Dooku has poisoned the youngling?
No idea,
Master Skywalker shrugged.
but the timing and circumstance make me wonder.
Let's make sure Rata survives then.
I'm sorry, Master.
He shook his head as if somehow he should have known this whole thing was a trap and avoided it.
Maybe I should have seen this coming, but it was a bad idea to deal with the Hutts. You can never win with them. You can only choose how badly you lose.
Cheerful.
Anakin, if we'd refused Jabba's request for help, we'd never have been granted access to those routes anyway. We had no choice.
You think he's colluding with Dooku?
Master Skywalker asked. Now that would be a curve.
That he maneuvered us? It was very unlike Jabba to ask for Republic help.
I don't know.
Kenobi admitted.
But one thing we can't do is play into Separatist hands by letting anything happen to the baby. Top priority. We return it in one piece.
At that moment, Ahsoka felt a tingle run down her spine. Not the someone is right behind me tingle, but the listen to your senses tingle. Her eyes darted around, looking for something, anything, out of place. She let out a low growl as her eyes found the sky. A couple nearby troopers angled their heads toward her.
"Master?"
She warned.
Okay, Master.
He was ignoring her.
Understood. Oh, great.
One of the troopers next to her tightened his hand to a fist.
Down!
One clone shouted.
Everybody down! Enemy fighters incoming! Take cover!
Captain Rex bellowed.
Defensive positions!
Everyone's rifles were up in a heartbeat and the clones were firing at the vulture droids that were suddenly bearing down upon them. R2-D2 ejected himself from Master Skywalker's fighter and rolled over, still transmitting Master Kenobi's message.
Master, we're under attack. Gotta go. And hurry up.
Anakin? Anakin!
The signal cut out.
Move, kid!
Ahsoka felt a gloved hand shove hard against her shoulder. She stumbled, sprinting toward the monastery entrance. She glanced behind her to see Rex waving her on with one hand and firing his pistol with the other. Master Skywalker was backing away from his starfighter. Suddenly, several bolts of laser fire hit the Delta-7 and it exploded in a ball of fire and shrapnel. Ahsoka turned back toward the doors, sprinting at full tilt. Her sensitive hearing picked up more of the sudden firefight as she ran.
Dwarf spiders! Take it down, take it down!
She ducked underneath the ATTE as it lumbered forward and dived behind what seemed to be some kind of pillar near the entrance to the monastery. She didn't bother to draw her lightsaber.
Keep Stinky alive.
She hugged the backpack as close to her chest as possible, not peering out to see where anybody else was. She tried to ignore the smell.
Ahsoka, are you okay?
Suddenly, her master was there, just in front of her, deflecting blaster bolts with his lightsaber.
Talk to me, Snips.
I'm okay, Master.
She called back, her voice muffled by the backpack.
I've got Rada. I think he's too sick to notice what's going on. Poor kid.
Small miracles.
It's okay, and keep your head down. And his. R2, get over there with her.
As the little astromech droid whirred over, Ahsoka spoke again, suddenly guilty.
Sorry, Sky Guy. I ran instead of sticking with you.
Rada's got to stay alive. You did right, Snips.
Her master assured her.
Getting shot when you don't have to isn't heroic. It's dumb.
Captain Rex then appeared out of nowhere, slamming his hand onto Skywalker's head and dragging him down, ducking behind another pillar to shield himself. Ahsoka was momentarily very surprised at the clone's brazenness with the Jedi General.
Yes, sir, it is. Keep your criffin head down.
I can sense rounds coming.
Okay, then do it to humor me.
Rex said, his tone flat.
So what's it to be, sir? Stall them until General Kenobi gets here, or slug it out?
You know what they say about discretion and valor.
Master Skywalker said.
Can we land a Lardy? Can we get Ahsoka off this rock with the hut lit?
Ahsoka looked up. The sky was full of vulture droids, raining laser fire on the courtyard. If her master's plan was to try and get a ship down to evac her and Rada, she was going to have to raise an issue with that. It was definitely not going to be possible. Luckily, Captain Rex seemed to be thinking along the same lines.
Negative, sir.
He said. She breathed a sigh of relief, even though all she got back was a stronger whiff of Stinky's distinctive odor.
Even if the Lottie isn't pounded to pieces when it sets down, not even Hawk could guarantee getting past the Sept ships in one piece, and he couldn't outrun them. We're stuck.
There was an air of finality in his voice that made Ahsoka nervous.
Okay, we dig in, fall back, and hold the monastery. Just concentrate on keeping that hut alive.
Ahsoka shifted slightly. They needed to move soon. She could feel it.
Got it, sir.
Rex looked down. Ahsoka plucked up the courage and peered into the courtyard to see how the firefight was going. Troopers were running away from the front courtyard gates, firing behind them. The ATTE stood its ground, firing over their heads.
They could turn this whole plateau to molten slag from the air if they wanted to.
Not if they want the hut alive.
Okay, a picture is forming now.
If Dooku set this up, then he needs to be the one to hand Rada back to Jabba.
Master Skywalker said. Somewhere, in the back of Ahsoka's mind, something told her that Count Dooku wouldn't need to present Rada alive if his goal was to frame them for his murder.
What I wouldn't give for air cover.
Captain Rex muttered.
Twice in a row. Next time, we pack a squadron of Delta Interceptors.
Here they come.
Rex said. Ahsoka supposed he must be talking to his men through his helmet's radio.
Korik, Hez, covering fire. AT, get to that gate and block those tinnies. Everyone else, inside, now.
She heard her master say something, but she was already sprinting back toward the entrance to the monastery. Her job was to keep little Rada alive, and she had to do her job. Ahsoka ducked as blaster bolts whizzed over her head. She kept low to the ground, thankful for both the Force and her Togrutan hunter's instincts for keeping her alive, moving, and aware of the battle around her. Reaching the huge entrance, Ahsoka slipped inside and took cover in an alcove just next to the door. R2-D2 rolled in behind her, slipping out of the line of fire as well. Moments later, Captain Rex appeared, holding a blaster pistol in either hand. Around him, more clones filed inside.
Where's my master?
Ahsoka shouted over the firefight.
Still out there,
Rex said, all his attention focused outside.
covering the AT crew.
But what?
Pardon me.
Rex stepped outside once more, bringing up his pistols and firing them both. Ahsoka peeked around her alcove to get a better view. Rex stood just outside the door, covering a group of 5 troopers that darted inside. 2 of them were carrying one man, who lay inert in their arms. Ahead of the captain, Ahsoka could see her master sprinting toward them, pursued by more droids than Ahsoka could count.
Rex, get inside. Seal the door.
He shouted.
With respect, sir, no.
I said, shut the criffing door.
The captain froze. Ahsoka's eyes widened. Was her master asking Captain Rex to shut him out? What would he do? She hadn't known the clone for very long, but she felt sure he wasn't going to just abandon her master like that. She was sure. Then he stepped back and redirected one of his pistols. It almost looked as though he had leveled it at Ahsoka, but that couldn't be true. She glanced to her right. He was aiming at the door controls.
No, wait!
Ahsoka shouted, jumping up and moving toward him, but he had already pulled the trigger. 2 bolts of blue energy rocketed into the door controls, destroying them in a shower of bright sparks. The door fell. Rex barely had time to register Ahsoka's movement before he tapped the trigger.
1, 2.
And the door was suddenly in free fall. General Skywalker dropped to one knee and slid the last meter or so. As it was, he had to move back a bit to give him some room and bumped into Ahsoka, who he hadn't realized had closed the distance between them and had a hold of his right bracer. And then the door crashed into the floor and there was only darkness. Inside, no one moved. No one made a sound. Outside, Rex heard the sounds of droids amassing, the whir of their servos, the click of their weapons, the annoying, whiny sounds of their voices. Slowly, troopers' helmet spot lamps began to flick on. This was it. Their backs were against the wall with no other way out.
Sir?
Addie piped up.
I think I left my lunchbox outside. Want to go and collect it for me?
It was like a switch had been flipped. Every remaining member of Torrent Company burst out laughing. So did Skywalker. So did Rex. In the large, open space the sound carried, echoing around the chamber. As the laughter petered out, the sound continued to bounce around the room. Ahsoka finally released Rex's gauntlet and he slipped his pistol back into its holster. Skywalker turned to him.
Rex, how many casualties? How many medics make it?
Rex glanced around and checked the ID list in his HUD.
42 men remaining, sir.
He reported.
3 medic trained. 6 walking wounded. 1 seriously injured and immobile.
He glanced over at Cato, who was being worked on feverishly by Cork and the 2 other medics.
Okay.
Skywalker said, sighing.
You know what to do, Captain. We'll hole up in the least accessible cell we can find, and if they get past you, then they'll still have to get past me and Ahsoka. And R2.
Understood, sir.
Rex gave a signal with one hand and the men sprang into action. 3 groups, 1 to barricade the door and fortify the position, 1 to set up tricks and traps along the passage and even on themselves in an attempt to slow or stop the inevitable droid advance, and 1 that consisted of the 3 medics setting up a first aid station. The droids were only getting that hut lit after they crawled over every one of their dead, cold bodies. Skywalker began moving among the men, reaching out to touch them on the hands, shoulders, backplates, really anywhere he could reach. Rex knew the men appreciated it. He turned to Ahsoka, who squinted in the light from his helmet lamp. He switched it off.
You thought I was going to shut him out?
Rex kept his voice low and made sure all his comm channels were turned off. Ahsoka turned her blue eyes away, brow furrowed.
Yeah. I know it was dumb.
Rex raised his hand a fraction. For a moment he thought about putting it on her shoulder, then remembered the reaction he got last time he touched her. He put his hand down.
Trust goes a long way,
he said.
I trusted that General Skywalker knew what he was talking about. I knew the door would free fall if I shot the controls, so I trusted myself to time its descent right. That, and those clankers were getting pretty close to the door.
You're right.
Ahsoka said.
Sorry, Captain.
It happens to the best of us, kid. No problem.
It really was unfortunate that there probably wasn't going to be a next time for them. The droids were going to breach the door sooner rather than later, definitely before Kenobi and his forces arrived. With only 42 men,
41. Cato isn't helping anyone.
he had no illusions that, in a space like this, superior numbers would overwhelm them in a matter of minutes. The Jedi would find a way to get the Huttlet to Jabba and secure the hyperspace routes. Jedi always found a way. But Rex and his men, they wouldn't be around to see it. Ahsoka smiled at him. He was glad he was wearing his helmet.
Thanks, Rex.
You'd better get going.
He said.
Good luck.
May the Force be with you.
She walked off to join her master at the back of the passage, R2-D2 trailing behind her like a dutiful pet. He doubted it,
Alright, you lot.
Rex said once the Jedi had disappeared.
You know the drill. If we can't stop them, then we delay them as long as we can. And after that, we make sure they have to crawl over our bodies. It's been an honor, gentlemen.